into this VOD. This is a player named Terminus. This is a Gold Genji Genji main, but he is playing for a some sort of team, and they want him to go full projectile DPS. So he's practicing other heroes that fit that mold too, Hanzo, Pharah, stuff like that. Pharah actually comes up at some point in this VOD, but I'm not really going to talk too much about it because it's very short. It's just kind of a stall thing. So yeah, so it's primarily a Genji one trick that is branching out into other things. Thanks to Lexi? No, I got that on my own. Thank you very much. I mean, Lexi was in some of my games. Lexi helped a little. All right. Anyway, I won plenty of those games on my own. Thank you very much.
I think that's the plant.
All right, so we're gonna get into this. I got separate notes for kind of general problems I'm seeing going on here. I'm not gonna talk at all about team comp because I don't care because it's a gold VOD. And I've got hey Chach, thanks for the sub. 3 months. Proud of what we've achieved. You know, we're on the upswing. I think it's getting. I think the community's growing, but I think that in a small 3 month time frame, we've grown quite a bit. So, thanks for helping me get there. You were one of the first. So, anyway, I got some general tips, and I got some separate Genji and Hanzo stuff. It starts off on Genji. I'm not gonna talk at all about team comp. I'm gonna try to go a little bit more in depth in this one, because I'm doing only one VOD this week. But yeah, should be fun. I also will note that I do not personally play Genji very often. But I know what you should be doing and how it should all work, because I have played in competitive teams and stuff like that with players and stuff, and spoken with them about it, and I just generally know how. I can pretty much tell you how to play any hero in this game. It's just I don't personally play Genji yet. I do have 50 hours on Genji.
So it's gonna be one of these.
But it's not like, you know, it's not like people that have like 800 hours on a hero.
What do you mean?
Symmetra games. It's like,
He never stops playing CTF? Yeah, I know.
it's kind of
He loves it.
kind of far out, yeah.
Okay, so this is the first thing I want to throw out there. I want to throw this out to all of you guys that are watching, and feel free to kind of just give me an answer. Why do you pick Genji? That is going to be a super important theme that goes on throughout this whole VOD that I'm going to talk about quite a bit. And a lot of people, and you can just kind of go for it even if you're not sure of the answer. Just why do you pick Genji? A lot of people's answers are going to be different, but there's a specific answer that is the real answer of why you would really want Genji on your team. But anyway, it is something I'm going to talk about quite a bit because the answer to that is going to be something that's going to be a common theme throughout this VOD. It's alright if you guys don't know or want to guess. A lot of people might say something to the effect of to hunt supports. You just don't want Genji on the enemy team. Yeah. Every time I play with Kimmy, she always complains at least once a play session about Genji, how broken he is. But I'm not saying he's broken or not broken. I'm just telling you what Kimmy thinks. She hates him. She wants him removed from the game. Anyway, a lot of people would say that you want Genji to hunt supports or to finish kills or to help dive. But that isn't the real reason you actually want Genji on your team. The main reason you pick Genji is for Blade. That's pretty much it. His base kit isn't that strong. The ability, yes, you can get a burst kill and make it flashy and stuff and make it nice, but those opportunities are so few and far between that really, you could get more consistent damage output with a soldier or a McCree or even a Widow or a Hanzo. You could get more consistent value just in their base kit. Forget about Blade. Just think about the base kit, what's normally there all the time. Um. Yeah, when you're support. Yeah. Yeah, I called you out. Um. Yeah, yeah. Support. Supports hate him. Tanks love him. It's Genji. I don't know. Anyway, but if you think about core value just in the kit without considering ults, yeah, Genji has a lot of mobility and he has vertical mobility and he can dive with the tanks and stuff like that. But there are other heroes who can poke from afar and support the Winston, or Clara can fly up over the top, or there's Tracer who can, or Sombra who can add a lot of value to the team. There are other things that you can do. And yes, you can get a fancy burst kill, but those opportunities come up so infrequently, and it's so inconsistent to get damage with the shurikens and finish kills that really, it's just not worth it if you weren't considering ultimates. But Dragon Blade is probably the best DPS ultimate in the game. So just having that Dragon Blade available, especially if you combine it with something like Nano or something like Valk, can just win you a fight on its own. Or I don't want to say on its own, but maybe you throw a Nano and that's 2 ults that just win you a fight. And if you're gonna win a fight for 2 ults, that's good ultimate economy. Or even just 1 ult sometimes if you know that they have trance, or you could just use it to get rid of a trance so that you can set up your Zarya to be able to clean up with her ult. Really the reason you take Genji is because his ultimate is so good that it demands an answer from the other team, or will win you the fight on its own. And the rest of the time spent playing Genji should really just be about being patient, poking, and getting your ult, because there's not a whole lot you can really do. Like if you dashed in right now, you can't dash this far, but if you were close enough to dash in right now, when you got there, what would you do? Not a lot. It's really about getting your ultimate and farming your ultimate. Those are the 2 modes. So we're gonna let this go.
Symmetra on the left alone.
I'm not gonna talk a whole lot about mechanics, especially for a gold VOD. But I'm not gonna talk a whole lot about mechanics just because I don't value mechanics that much. I was watching a Jane stream a few days ago, and he was, he has a break from Overwatch League, and so he's talking, he's doing a VOD review, because he has off in Overwatch League, so he has opportunity to VOD reviews. And he's doing it on a VOD, and he's talking to the player when the VOD review is going on. He's talking to the player that he's doing his VOD, and he's asking him, what could you have done better in this situation? Like what led to your death, and what could you have done better to prevent your death or to turn this fight around? And he starts talking about hitting more shots or just landing that sleep dart that he missed, etc., etc. And he made a point that people tend to place a very heavy emphasis on mechanics in this game, when really, oftentimes it's not about whether or not you landed that sleep dart. It's about the fact that you put yourself in a situation where you had to land a sleep dart or die. That is the more important thing, the fact that you were in that situation in the first place. It's positioning, it's game sense. Those are the things that really, really separate the great players from the average players. So we're going to talk more about that stuff on my stream, not just in this VOD, but on my stream in general. We will talk about a few mechanical issues I see going on with this, with the Genji play and the Hanzo stuff. But it's not going to be super in depth, and I'm not going to be like, you needed to land those shurikens, because look at this. Look at this. This is the reality of playing Overwatch. You are not going to land every shot. You're not going to land every shuriken. You're not going to land every arrow. That's okay. Even the best players don't land every. And the reality of it is that sometimes you're just gonna miss. No amount of me telling you, hey, just hit your shot, is gonna make you hit any more shots. So I'm not gonna talk about that stuff too much on my stream in general or in this VOD review. Especially not in this VOD review. What I am gonna mention is proper use of cooldowns.
Symmetra on the left.
Now, we've got Symmetra here, and she's basically screwed. You're all collapsing in on this Symmetra. She's just absolutely screwed. In most situations on Genji, you're gonna want to save your dash for one of a few uses. Oh, you're here. Good. What's up, Terminus? How was your scrim? You said you had a scrim, right? Blade was kind of mad this match. That's okay. We'll work through it, and not every blade is going to be a team kill. But anyway, let's talk about the uses for dash. One, finishing right in there. Finishing kills. 2, escaping. 3, how do I want to word this? I guess engaging. Oops. And there's very few scenarios where you're going to want to do this. I'm going to talk about that. And I think this right here is one of the biggest problems a lot of Genji players, you see in a lot of Genji players, because they use it to engage too often. And 4, just like positional. Like, hey, I want to get up on that high ground and there's nothing going on. Or I need to get up in this spot that I can't wall climb to, so you just use your dash to get up. But these are the main uses, really. And the positional thing can include like dashing up in the air to make your before you blade, to like get a better view of what's happening below you. I'm going to talk about that too in the VOD. There's a lot of things I'm going to talk about in this VOD. It was good. You played a 2.17. They were really good on goats. Did you lose most of them? Because you guys are probably a gold team? Or like a low plat? Are you guys running goats? Anyway, so I'm gonna talk about this stuff in the game in the VOD review, but this is the order of priority, really. And these two can be interchangeable depending on the situation. If you have an opportunity to finish a kill, you should take it. If you see an enemy that is below 50 HP, you should just dash through it immediately. Don't hesitate. Don't wait. Just dash through it immediately. You will get a dash reset. You can get out. Every once in a while, the person dies before you get there, and then you get caught out. But that just happens. The risk you gotta take. But yeah, so I guess you can throw in damage as one of them, just extra damage. But I really throw that in with engaging. I really kind of put that in there. Anyway, talking a lot, and we're not really watching much of the VOD. You run various comps at 2.3. Goats 3 DS bunker. Cool. Sounds cool. Alright, so you're gonna want to do one of two things here. You can really just wait for the Symmetra, because she's gonna probably take a ton of damage from the Reaper and the D.Va. You can just continue to fire shurikens in here until you get her low enough to dash through and kill. Or you can, because she's probably gonna die, and she's so isolated, that this is an opportunity where you can use your dash to engage. So there's one of two things you can do here. You can continue firing shurikens until she's low enough to just dash and then use the #1 priority, like I said, finishing. Or you can just engage. You can use your dash to just engage and just get 50 to 80 damage. Dash does 50 damage, and you should be combining it with melee, which does 30 damage. 80 damage. And what you're going to want to do is just dash directly at her feet. look slightly down, right at her feet, and the dash will end right as you hit her. And then you immediately follow that up with an animation cancel into a melee. It will give you an instant 80 damage, and that burst damage is huge. Burst damage is king in Overwatch. And then she's just eventually gonna die. You either just fire a shuriken in, or Reaper and Diva finish. Whatever, she's not gonna kill any of you before she dies in a 3v1. You use the dash to engage on targets that you know you can kill who are super isolated, and you know you have a major advantage in. That is the time when you want to use it to engage. And that is...
Left alone.
What you do here, but you go past her instead of dashing at the feet. Now, when you aim at the floor here, you're not going to go so far past her that you end up having to turn around and find her. You're going to be in front of... She's going to be kept in front of you, and is going to make landing the next follow-up shot much easier and landing the melee much easier. But you're dashing straight, so what you're going to do is you go past her. This is the mechanical stuff I will talk about. I'm not just going to say, hey, you missed. I'm going to tell you what you can change about it to make it more smooth. But you're going to go right past her. Because you're dashing in a straight line forward. Alone. See how you go past her? If you stare at the floor, your dash will stop short. You can dash a shorter distance instead of the set 10 meters or whatever it is. Then you have to locate her, and so it just takes following it up with the melee that much longer.
She's low.
You can also, if you're gonna have, you can also.
Symmetra on the left alone.
Another thing I want to talk about mechanically before we start getting to the regular stuff I'm going to talk about is that you can animation cancel Genji's just about everything. Pulling blade, dashing, deflecting. You can animation cancel with a right click. You just hit right click and then immediately hit dash, and that animation cancel, or that animation of Genji throwing the shurikens out, just disappears, but the shurikens still fly out, and it doesn't cost you any extra time. Aside from actually the microsecond of having to click the right mouse button. So yeah, so that's just going to be extra damage you can throw out there. Yes, it costs you 3 ammo, but you've got 15 here. And one of the shurikens might land, and all of a sudden now, instead of having 70 HP, she's got maybe one of the shurikens land, and she has 50. Dead. That just straight up kills her. So that's another thing. You can also animation cancel into a melee, which is what you should have done here. That should be... Oh wait, you did.
Symmetra on the left alone.
15 ammo, 12 ammo. Good.
She's low.
Okay.
Thanks.
Now is where we're going to start talking about actual things that matter, as opposed to like, hey, you should have right clicked before you did this. All right. This is where I started to notice the biggest fundamental issue with your gameplay that I saw throughout the whole VOD, and regardless of what hero you want. That you place a heavy emphasis on brawling. Let's say this is Horizon Lunar Colony first point, this box. This is the choke, and this is like the area you come from. You know, you come up through here, and then there's high ground up here, so there's high ground up here, and there's the point, and then there's high ground over here. This way. Right, this is Horizon. Let's just say more or less this is Horizon, right? I know it's kind of jank, but you know, don't. And it's outside, you can go to space. You went full caveman? What's up? What's up, Berto? Glad you were here to catch my stream. Yeah, masterpiece, thank you. So anyway, let's say the blue is you. This is you, right? And you're coming through, here, and you come through this way because you kill the. You want to kill the Symmetra who's here, and the rest of their team is here. Here's the Orisa barrier, here and here and here, right? And the rest of your team is, I don't know, God knows where. They're whatever. They're pushing through onto the point. They're here. They're here and here, and they're brawling, right? Or actually, you know what? Let's say even before all that, they're with you. They're here. One of them's up top, up here. Whatever. They're just pushing through, right? You place a very heavy emphasis on engaging in and getting yourself in the fight and trying to take on this duel, and then trying to win that duel and take on this duel, and then trying to win this duel. And that's kind of what your gameplay is like. You're trying to drift from duel to duel and always forcing a duel. You're like, I'm gonna win this 1v1, then I'm gonna win this 1v1, and I'm gonna frag, and that's how we're gonna win because I am going to be mechanically better than everybody else. But when you toss yourself into the fight like this and you start taking all these duels, eventually you're gonna lose one of those 1v1s, and you're going to die. And when you die every fight, yeah, unintentional smiley. Wait. Here we go. When you die every fight, you're just gonna lose more games because you're not gonna be there to help your team. Because one of your teammates is gonna lose that 1v1, and then all of a sudden now it's a 4v4, and now you're just relying on your 4 to beat their 4, and that's a coin toss up. And that's how you're gonna go 50-50 in gold. The far better play. Let's erase this. What you should be doing, and what I want to see more, is positioning yourself on the perimeter. So you go here. Stay here. Set yourself up here. Set yourself up here. And you never really go in all the way on the point. You're just poking in, until there is an opportunity for a kill. I.e., somebody gets low enough for you to just go in and get that 50 damage and get the reset and get out. Or someone gets super isolated, which happened, which you went up here and killed this person. Whether or not that was intentional or kind of incidental, it's hard to tell. But somebody isolated themselves to the maximum and you handled it. And you just stay along the perimeter until you either get enough damage onto people to finish a kill, or someone just gets super low and you can finish somebody isolated, or you get your blade. It is all about poking for blade. Like I said, there are 2 modes with Genji. It is farming ult, and I have ult. I'm just going to go in and go ham. Obviously, there are times when you don't want to go in with your ult because, you know, it's a dead fight. We talk about ult discipline a lot on this channel, and it's not something I'm going to talk about too much in this VOD because you really don't seem to have an issue there, at least not in this game. If anything, you're a little bit too conservative with your ult. But anyway, the big problem I see in this VOD, this whole long drawn out explanation was to say that I'm gonna play this fight back, and we're gonna watch how you go in and brawl and stand in the middle of the fight. You're always putting yourself in the middle of the fight, and just trying to frantically make something happen instead of playing smart, playing on the edge, and waiting for an opportunity and then pouncing. Whether that opportunity is your ult, or someone getting low, or someone getting isolated. We're gonna play this fight back, this whole fight.
Gonna be one of these games, okay?
Yeah, you have a hard time finding a balance between spamming versus actually getting burst damage. Maybe it's because sometimes I fuck up. Feel like long range makes it hard to get efficient damage. I'm gonna talk about that too. You have a tendency to close distance in order to finish kills. That I noticed, and we're gonna talk about that when you get on Hanzo. We'll talk about that more in depth.
And the far right, okay.
I noticed a lot of things in this VOD. I watched it earlier today. Okay.
Symmetra on the left.
So we're kind of just moving towards the point. We're kind of just moving towards the point here. I don't think you're actually fighting along the perimeter. It's more so you're just trying to get to the point. And the Symmetra happens to isolate herself, so you pounce on it. It is
Symmetra
kind
on
of
the
just
left
fortunate.
alone?
Maybe I'm not giving you enough credit. Maybe you knew she was isolated. Okay, we get low. We don't back off here to fight in the perimeter. We back off to get heals, which is good. And now is when we're gonna start closing distance and trying to brawl instead of maybe going up here and continuing to poke, or going up here and continuing to poke. Maybe going back up this way and continuing to poke. Maybe go around the side and sit over here and just poke in. There's a lot of things we could do in this one situation, right where you are right now. There's a lot of things you could do. Hell, you could even just sit right here and throw shurikens at this Orisa right now. You could just sit down here and just left click it. And force her to move beyond her barrier, which will expose her and allow your teammates to clean. But instead of doing any of that, we're just gonna toss ourselves into the fight. This is where things go wrong. By the way, you did get in a dash at the feet and a melee. There you go. You did do it. That's good. Okay, actually no, things do go okay here. You get the first point easily. All right, but that is gonna happen more often, and you'll see it on the second point because I don't think you guys ever fully capped the second point. Spoiler alert. And yeah, we'll see how the brawling doesn't work out. Every once in a while, it works out and makes you feel good about yourself. Kind of get the we kind of get lost with the Symmetra there. That's okay. We're not gonna talk about every little micro mistake, because there's no way you're gonna avoid making micro mistakes in games. There's always gonna be things that just happen to catch you off guard. Okay, so this is good. This is sitting a bit late on the deflect there. That's okay. Like I said, micro mistakes. Okay, so we're fighting on the perimeter. This is actually what you want to see. We're fighting on the perimeter. You get an opportunity because you see that the hamster is low. Unfortunately, he shields and you get stuck out. Now, this is the risk of dashing in. I talked about the priority list for dashing. This is the risk of dashing in to engage or to finish a kill, and then either the person dies before you get to him, or they get burst healed and you don't kill him or something. Now you're left out to dry and you're forced to brawl, and you're without one of your cooldowns. Fortunately, so this is good. I like that you recognize that you're hanging out to dry and you need to get back to the perimeter. This is nice.
Get Diana, she's low.
Opportunity, look. We're gonna tunnel onto this far. This is another issue that I noted, is that there are times when you focus so hard on one target that you completely ignore everything else that's going on around you. And this is kind of a habit that you need to consciously, and that the only way to get out of this tunneling thing is to force yourself to think about what else is going on around you and actively try to make sure that, like, hey, you're looking around more to make sure there's other stuff, what else is going on. As you get locked into this 1v1, like I said, it's a series of duels for you. You view the game, it seems like you view the game as a series of 1v1s. And so now you are locked in this 1v1, and nothing else matters. And there's everything else going on around you. Watch, you're gonna walk right past an Orisa that is right next to you and not care. There's also an Ana back there. She's getting healed. You're just not gonna win this fight. You gotta recognize sooner when something is a waste of time, or your time could be spent better doing something else. This one fight was actually not so bad in terms of the brawling. You actually did more or less what you need to do there. You could have identified sooner here not to dash, because the and also the Ana was staring at the hamster too, so you gotta be careful with that. That's gonna be 70 first heals. But other than that, you backed off when you needed to. You fought on the perimeter, looked for an opportunity, pounced on it. Oh, the Ana wasn't there; she was dead. Okay, never mind. Yeah, but anyway, that was an example of a good fight up until you tunneled onto the forest. So this is another issue here.
She's half.
Um, Point B was hard, so open. Slow reaction time is kind of okay. You have to place an heavier emphasis on predicting things, as opposed to reacting to things. My reaction time is not the greatest, but I've gotten to Grandmaster, and it's because I predict things before they happen, as opposed to trying to react to things. That's why you see a lot of the pro players are between like 18 and 21 or something like that, because the younger you are, the better your reaction time is going to be, and as something that just naturally decays with age. But you know, some people, that's an average though. It could be people who are 26 who have great reaction times, and there could be people who are 40 with great reaction times, and there could be people who are 15 with terrible reaction time. So that's just a, but on average, the younger you are, the better your reaction time is going to be, declines with age. But yeah. So yeah, you kind of locked onto the forest so heavily there, you didn't even notice that you were walking. The other enemy hamster put mines down, and you could have walked into. There was an Arissa here that you walked right past, who was going to be shooting you in the back. And there was just a better. You could have just used your time better there, and you even could have tried to blade this. I don't think this fight.
Get Diana, she's low.
I don't think this fight would have been a terrible to try to blade into, because it's like a 3v3. And if you could manage to clean up one or two, then you could really turn this into at least a tick or two. But you're low, and it would be risky.
Farah, she's half.
Anyway, we're gonna move on from this fight.
Nice, we got a pick.
Hamster feeds.
Let's go in, careful. Oh, and I said.
See how locked you are?
Oh, and I said.
At this moment, there's a point when a 1v1 is over. A lot of players view the 1v1, the duel, as it is not over until one of us dies. But there is a point when a 1v1 is over that you have to recognize quickly, without either player dying at times. At times it could be something as simple as the Farah getting back to her own team's space or retreating through a choke. And now you would have to, she goes out this way. She goes out this way. You would have to go walk through this choke and turn this way and come out a little bit this way in order to get the angle on her, and you'd be putting yourself at serious risk in order to get the kill, and she might even just get healed before you can kill her anyway. So it's not worth chasing, so you have to give up on the fight. You do give up on it, but it takes a hair or two too long, only because she gets completely out of line of sight of you. But the moment she got herself through that choke, it was done.
Wait for the rest, get out.
A good disengage.
Guys didn't see me.
Yeah, I know. You have to.
Alright. This is the other thing I want to talk about. There are two modes. This is something I noticed on both heroes, but it's really prevalent on Genji, and it's something that's ult farming is more important for Genji than it is for Hanzo. And there is a point where you are doing yourself a disservice by continuing to throw out shurikens and poking. And that is usually when you have your ult. If you have your ult, well, let's go back.
Get out.
Okay, you call for get out because you know it's done. At this point, you're just sitting here and waiting for your team to regroup. You just sit behind the choke. Usually you would sit like here or like here and just wait for your team to regroup. But a lot of players have a hard time sitting there and doing nothing. Their brain constantly tells them, it's like this thing in your brain that just goes, yo, what are you doing? You're just staring at a wall, do something, try to get a kill, do damage, do the things. So instead, you go here, and you up forward, and you do damage, and you deflect, and you send shurikens out. That all looks nice and great. You did not accomplish a thing just now. Actually, you did accomplish a thing. All you've done is feed the enemy healer's ult charge. Yes. It would have been far better, and you did quite a bit of damage there. That you did at least like probably in total, including the damage you deflected, and you probably did at least 150 damage there. You got some headshots in there. Maybe even more than that with the damage you deflected and the 2 headshot shurikens, and you gotta right click onto the hamster. Maybe even more than that. And that's juicy ult charge for the enemy supports. They might already have their ults, but you don't know that for sure, especially since I really haven't been ult tracking. I know you have either. Especially since I've been stopping it. Sometimes it's hard to ult track when you stop the VOD every couple seconds. But anyway, so yeah, it'd be far better to just sit there and do nothing. They're just not gonna have their ult as often to stop you.
Nice hit.
Oh, yes, nice.
And yeah, I don't need to hammer that point home anymore.
Can you nano me?
Do not wait for the Ana to nano you in order for you to go in. Dash up in the air. The Ana will you can call for nano. Say, hey, nano me, and then dash up in the air. And then when you're dashed up in the air, the Ana will nano you. And then you ult and dash down. Because the blading, as I'm sure you know, resets your dash cooldown. So you get 2 dashes. If you dash up in the air, it does 2 things. It makes it very easy for the Ana to land the nano on you and not have it accidentally hit someone else. And it makes it very obvious. It also makes it very obvious for the Ana. But the other thing is that you get this perspective where you're up here for a second, you're floating up here, and you can look down on the battlefield. You have this vision of the battlefield now. That was supposed to be a prison, but you get this aerial view of the battlefield, and it allows you to much more accurately and precisely determine what is the best target, and it allows you to easily kind of land a dash directly at someone's feet. And with Blade, all you have to do is dash and slash, and that's it. You've gotten a kill. You don't have to do any more than that. Well, at least on a squishy target. Unless they get bubbled or something like that. So don't ask for the nano, get the nano, then dash up, and then dash down. You're going to be wasting a lot of nano time. The Ana isn't supposed to nano you first. You're supposed to dash up first. You can call for the nano, that's fine. Say nano me, dash up, and then go up. Don't wait for the... Yeah. It's alright, happens. Not every blade's going to be perfect. So this is a common tactic you see a lot of Genjis do. You're buying time to close distance. That's what you're doing with deflect. You deflect, but really what you're doing is closing distance. But you can't close distance without deflecting because you're just going to take a rocket to the face. So what you do is you deflect and walk forward, and you corner them. You put them back into a corner, here or whatever, and then you get right up next to them to a point where you can cancel the end of deflect animation with a right click, and there's only a very, very tiny window where they can damage you. And basically, you're probably going to get the shuriken off before they damage you. And what you've done is you've cornered them to a point where they cannot shoot you, and then you just get up really close to them to a point where you can't miss, and then just fire it in. That's what happens here. Good mechanics. See? But yeah, you could dash up a little higher on that one. It would have made it easier for the Ana, and it would have made you in the air longer, so you can, you probably would have hit this dash through the Ana. If you, instead of dashing straight forward, would have, dashed up more. It would have given you more airtime, and more time to line up the shot and hit it. And you wouldn't have had to hit the floor, then jump, then dash. It wouldn't have been so awkward, and you would have saved some time. You would have saved some nano time, you would have saved some blade time, maybe gotten even an extra slash in. And that extra slash would have saved you the trouble of having to do all this. So yeah.
You need some heals? Your Genji needs some heals.
Alright, to call, your Genji needs some heals instead of I need some heals. Well, you did say I need some heals and then you corrected it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Those callouts are important because just saying I need some heals, nobody knows who the hell you are. They don't know who's talking, so just tell them who you are. Help your Genji. Heal your Genji. Genji needs heals. Whatever. So this is a little clunky. Remember, it's dash and melee, and right click immediately. It used to be that you could dash into right click into melee all instantaneously, and it was all animation canceled. But now there is a slight delay between the dash and the slash. So or dash, they added some sort of delay between the animation cancels. So now it's like dash melee then right click, as far as I know. Now remember, see, this is when it all devolves into a brawl, right? Remember what I said about the two modes. There's the I have blade and I'm gonna go in and kill everyone. There's also cleanup. I wouldn't say this is quite cleanup. This is still kind of a fight. I guess you could argue it's cleanup. I think it's just Hog here. No, it's Hog and yeah. There's a lot of enemies still around. I wouldn't say it's quite cleanup. So it's probably better to fight on the perimeter here. So you go up. Once this blade is over and you get this kill, maybe on the Ana who's isolated, you go up here and you throw shurikens, or you don't have to go that far away. You can be on the edge of the point, fight around the point. You just want to stay at arm's length away from everyone, so you're not going to take any damage, but you're all the while trying to farm this. Which means that it's dash mouse, right mouse button melee. Okay. Yeah. Melee can't be canceled. Okay. Yeah, I know they changed it at some point early on in the game. Yeah, like I said, I don't play that much Genji though, so I forget which one is the correct order. Anyway, I know a lot of the top Genji players, what they do to farm is they actually attack the tanks a lot. Instead of going for the supports and going for the squishies, they actually just farm off the tanks as much as possible to get their blade again as fast as possible. And that's how these Genjis end up getting their blade so often. And so quickly in the pros and in the high ranks. So you're really just gonna wanna, just farm your ult off of Hog or Paul. There's a point where this fight's gonna be over though. Fortunate reload timing happens. Yeah, the fight's done. Get out. Good, I'm glad you're getting some value out of the VOD. The fight wasn't a total disaster though, you got 2 ticks off of it, which is good. So now you're in get your ult mode, right? It should just be, if you take anything from this VOD with Genji, it should just be that. It is either farm your ult and hang out on the perimeter, unless there's an opportunity to pounce on an isolated enemy, someone's low and you can get the kill for free with the dash, or maybe a dash slash, something like that. And then, or it's just poke until you get your ult and then go in. And then, or either that, or you have your ult and it's time to go ham. Just engage with that. Obviously, when everyone's there. I thought this was a little weird. You didn't take this opportunity to. This hamster just like, hey, please come. Everyone, come turn around and focus me and get your 20% of your ult off of me. And then you just kind of ignored it and let him roll past you and passed it. It was a little strange. And eventually, by the time you decide to turn around, it's gone. Yeah.
Rotok below, no heals. Oh.
So this was a total misuse of cooldowns. This is how you die here. Alright. So we're gonna go down, and we're gonna use dash to engage. Or to do damage, like I said before on that list. This is okay, especially since you're going towards your own space, towards your own team's area of control, right? Because if you think about it, this is closer to your spawn, and this is through the choke on your side of the choke. Choke being here, the one in the middle here, and the one on top here, and this right here. Whatever, you're going to your side of the choke, where the rest of your teammate is going to be. your space, your team controls that space. Is what I'm trying. That's fine. Dashing towards your own safety is cool. But you have to know now that you just used your dash. So if you go beyond this choke into the enemy team's space again, you will not have a way to get out. But you're so focused on killing, and you're so focused on this hog that you don't even see this metric here. But anyway, point is, if you go out here, you're not gonna have your dash to get out with. It's fine that you use your dash here for that, but you have to know, hey, if I go out there, I've only got one tool at my disposal to get out with, and that's deflect. And we're gonna see how we misuse both of these.
Below, no heals.
So now we're gonna tunnel into this duel. Same as before. Same problem as has been going on. It's one of the core issues I've noted. And then we're too early on to deflect.
Below, no heals, no heals. Oh.
If we're that worried about the hook, we shouldn't be closing distance on this hog anyway, especially not with the amount of health.
Below, no heals.
Well, I guess we have 200.
Oh.
Yeah, okay, you start taking damage from the smash too. Okay,
Below, no heals, no heals.
it is the fact that you walk out into the space. You chase this fight because you're so locked into this duel. You're like, okay, one of us needs to die in order for this duel to be done. And even when he gets nanoed, you don't immediately start backing up.
Oh.
And now you use your deflect too early because you were forced to, because you put yourself in a bad position, because you walked out beyond this choke into enemy space. Use the only tool left at your disposal to get out with. And now if he turns his whole hog towards you, you're dead. There's nothing you can do. Does. Tunnel visioning again, yes. Yeah, but even if the hamster's evasive, if he's just gonna roll in and be like, hey, you can get a shuriken or two in me, especially when you already had 80% on your ult, that's just free ult charge that you were gonna, because you're in poke mode anyway. You should be in poke mode anyway. So that's just him giving you a gift. I mean, if he uses his shields, then there's no reason to poke at him anymore, because you actually don't get ult charge off of Hammond's shields. But yeah. Anyway. So you use your dash to get in towards your own space. That's fine, but you gotta continue that by going out and keeping your distance, keep him at arm's length. You didn't do that. Instead of going out, you went further back in to chase the fight and to keep the fight at arm's length. It's the same thing as I was talking about before. I'm going to talk about more with the Hanzo thing, but you do tend to close distance in order to you know what, I'll just talk about it now. We're going to get a lot of value out of this fight specifically, because we're going to look at this tendency of yours to hold to close distance.
Going.
Genji shurikens do not have fall off. And Hog's hitbox is pretty big right here. I didn't even do it justice. It's more like that. I mean, obviously it's not square. It's more tight to his body, but yeah. Anyway. So let's say Hog's hitbox is this big, right? If he is closer, if you close distance on him, obviously his hitbox is going to take up more of your screen. It's going to be more pixels. He's going to be like this. So it's going to be easier for you to land shots. Problem is that when you close distance like that in order to make your own shots easier, and a lot of lower ELO players and mid-tier ELO players have a tendency to do this. Because they're like, oh, it's going to make my shots easier, I'm going to land more shots, I'm going to get more kills, I'm going to do more damage. Problem with this is that your hitbox has just gotten bigger for him too. There's more room for him to land a hook or to get a juicy left click on you or something like that. Especially since Hog is a close range hero that can't really do a ton of damage from far away. You should be using that range to your advantage. You should be like, hey, Hog's not going to be able to kill me if I'm all the way back there, but I can still do damage to him. Yeah, sure, it's going to be harder for me to land left clicks, but I only need to land a few of them to get my ult anyway, and he's not going to damage me. So I'm going to get ult, and he's not. Well, he might get self-healing ult, but either way, that's specific to Hog. And it's kind of aside from the point. So we're going to see this tendency of yours to close distance. Watch this. Watch how we close the distance here. and put ourselves at great risk.
Rotok below, no heals, no heals.
Nano happens, we're still closing distance to make the shots easier. Now we can't back up because of Symmetra turrets. By the time we realized, oh shit, we got ourselves in a bad spot, it's too late. You don't have dash. You tried to dash back through.
Oh.
That's why you turned this way, right? The reason you're turning this way because you're like, I want to dash back through. And you spam shift and you're like, oh, well, I don't have it. I gotta do something else. And then it's too late. We're gonna talk about that more with the it comes up a lot with Hanzo. But you have a tendency to try to close distance instead of fighting at range. Especially since Genji and Hanzo both have no damage fall off. You should use the range to your advantage. Alright. A whole lot of nothing happens here for a while. Like, this is much better. But, again, we're gonna close distance. It is okay to poke from afar until you get an enemy low enough for you to just instantly kill them with the dash. Stay at about dash length, which is probably about here. And then when they get low enough, like she is now, you can just dash and melee. And you'll have the kill. Perfect. But, you could have done this, played from further away. This moment right here is where the screw up is, because yes, you're gonna get that melee in, but look how low you get in the process. If she gets another damage tick on you, any amount of damage at all, just a melee, anything, which you can animation cancel the right click into a melee, by the way, you are dead here. A better player would kill you. But that's a good finish.
Careful, help our Rotok.
Now we're in kill Pharah mode. Oh, we actually let it go. Good. Don't need to poke anymore.
Just wait for everyone.
Everyone has that. Even I do this sometimes, but everyone has that small thing in their brain. It's like, hey, we got to do something while we're moving. We can't just be moving, or we can't just be staring at a wall. So you end up poking for no reason.
We can stop.
Try to stop doing that. I like that you're trying to plan something before the fight, even in any small capacity. It wasn't much, but still it's better than what you see at your rank most of the time. So you don't need to play around the perimeter anymore. You don't need to poke, and you don't need to do any of that stuff. You can just get yourself in position to blade, and then engage with blade, or even just dashing up and blading and seeing if they use a supportal, and then back. What supports do they have? They have Ana and actually, they just showed Ana and Zen. Yeah, so you just pull out the blade and see if they trance, and if they trance, you just get out, which they probably have it. Kind of a misuse of blade there. Even if you take the fire rocket to the face, you're not going to die. You just saw Hog use his hook, so you're not going to get hooked. You're not allowed to use it. Try to be more disciplined with that. But that's just a, like I said, I don't want to hammer home too many micro mistakes. That's what makes it. A lot of nothing happening. See, there needs to be more of a plan. Not only just with you, but with the team in general. And sometimes you gotta be the one that just says, hey, everyone, let's go top right, and I'm gonna engage him with blade, get out trance, and then we're gonna, and then we'll throw in coalescence after that. Even just something as small as that. Now, you said we can coalescence and then blade, but that doesn't give the team any indication about where you want to go or how you want to do that. And really, the big thing here is that this engagement is so far from clean that the engagement never actually happens. And look how much time is wasted with this fight.
We can start with coalescence and then I can blade maybe.
Okay, 2:15, right? Let's just skip ahead. Your team happens to get a kill at 1:15. Whole minute's gone by. Your team still hasn't committed. They use trance there, which is a gift for you. You should blade the moment that this trance is over.
I'm gonna blade this.
Someone need to get that far.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Look how long it took just for you guys to, the engagement actually didn't last that long. This all happened in the span of a second or like 4 or 5 seconds, maybe 10. But so long goes by, and it's partially because no one's there to communicate. And yes, it really shouldn't. You can argue it really shouldn't be the DPS's job to do this. But if no one's gonna do it, someone's gonna step up to the plate and do it. Like, hey guys, everyone go main. 3, 2, 1, let's go. Everyone go through main, and set up the engagement that way. Even if the engagement doesn't have a ton of planning, at least if your engagement is concise and quick, the other team is gonna be it's in gold. The other team's probably gonna be so spread out or so unorganized that they're not going to be able to stop it. Or if they do stop it, you're not going to waste that much time. You're not going to waste 2.5 minutes or 1.5 minutes, sorry, doing this whole fight. Instead, it might take you 30 or 40 seconds to do that fight. And that way, instead of getting, 4 fights for this second point, maybe you get 7 fights. And now your chances of capping both points just went up drastically. So it needs to be more concise.
Yeah,
It's hard to do that on the ladder, I know.
I got try.
There's some stutters in this VOD, which is okay. Just so you guys know, it's not the stream, it's the VOD. Not gonna comment too heavily on the Pharah play because you're on it for so short of an amount of time. You do kind of hyper focus on these mines for no reason. Waste a lot of time on that. You could have just went past them and continued on. Those mines are so poorly placed, there's no way that they were gonna get it. Okay, we're locked in the Pharah duel. It isn't until we kill the Pharah that we even turn to look what's over here. Now, in a Pharah v Pharah duel, sometimes you can waste a lot of time on a Pharah v Pharah duel, and for the defense, all this other Pharah needs to do, she doesn't need to kill you. All she needs to do is waste your time long enough for, because the enemy spawn is so close that even if your team starts winning this fight over here, it's not quite a 5v5, because let's say your team makes it a 5v4 by getting a pick. That person is back in like 10 to 12 seconds. Then it becomes a 5v5 again. And if in that time, instead of making a 5v5, 5v5. If in that time, both sides get 1 pick, it becomes a 4v4. But it's going to take your team much longer to get back than it is for their team, so it's going to become a 4v5. All this Pharah needs to do is wait long enough and hope, and waste your time long enough in an area battle that can sometimes take forever because there's just so many variables and it's so hard to finish. All they need to do is wait long enough and hope that their team trades out a little bit and then stalls out and stalls long enough to win the game, which they probably will. Not to win the game, but to win the point, sorry. So a lot of times it's better to just ignore the other Pharah and just do your damage into whatever's on the floor down here. Shoot it down here. Yeah. Anyway.
Pharah set. Rotor
It is good that you got the kill.
Send low in the back.
Could manage the thrusters a little better.
Go for the rotor.
You actually are managing it not bad here. Yeah, long enough for you to continue to fly. Yeah, it's hard to continuously fly in this part of the map because you end up hitting the pole up there, or you end up hitting the skybox and yeah, the Pharah wasted your time and you end up getting so locked in that 1v1 that you didn't notice that you were C9ing.
I can't even.
Anyway, we're gonna move on from the Pharah. We get on the Hanzo. And the first mistake, so we're gonna talk about, actually, let me just reiterate all the things I saw with the Genji. You need to fight on the perimeter more, and be more patient about poking instead of just going in for the brawl and getting locked into 1v1. Attack with a plan about how you're gonna get out. It wasn't something I specifically mentioned, but it happened in the VOD a few times. When you go in, you should be like, okay, if you're gonna engage, have a plan about, hey, if this goes, after I get this dash, I'm gonna get a reset and then get out. Or if you know that you're just dashing across to get some damage, to get some cleave damage, to get some ult, like, okay, I'm gonna dash across here and then I'm gonna walk on up this and get out. You should have a sort of plan whenever you're doing that. Or even if your plan is, hey, I'm just gonna poke and farm my ult on the perimeter until someone gets low or until I get my ult, that's fine too. But yeah, attack with a plan. Don't wait for nano, just call for it and dash up. Or you should just practice dashing up before you bleed. In most scenarios. There are some times where you don't want to do it, but yeah. And then yeah, it's just, you know, if the other thing is, always think about, why do you pick Genji? And it's for Blade. The reason you pick Genji is Blade. And if you can't get value out of Blade for whatever reason, if they have a Lucio and a Genji, sorry, not Lucio, Lucio and Zen and stuff like that, and they just have defensive ults all the time, or if you're just getting, you know, shattered every time, or the Ana is really, really good and is hitting sleep darts on you and stuff like that. If you can't get value out of Blade, then don't play Genji. Obviously you were doing fine there. I'm not saying you should have switched off a Genji or anything like that. Maybe you could have, but it seemed like you were doing okay. But yeah, keep in mind that the reason you pick Genji is for Blade, and if you keep that in mind, you're gonna try to farm your ult more, and you're gonna play a little bit more passive up until you. Think of Genji as an opportunist. He sits back and he waits and he's patient and he plays at a distance until he gets his chance. And then when he gets his chance, he goes ham. You gotta call for it. So the thing is, Ana, what he said is, Ana's often don't nano me, or they just nano me out of nowhere, or don't find me even if you dash up. That's why I'm so weird on calling for nano. So, this is your ult. Okay. But you should just call for it beforehand. Don't just dash up and expect it. Be like, hey, nano me, and or just say, I'm gonna dash up, nano me when I dash up, and then just say, and then when you're doing it, nano, and then most of the time, most Anas will hit you with it, unless they're not in the voice. If they're not in the voice, then you gotta find a way to type it out, or you gotta just dash up and hope they hit you with it. Trust me, it is gonna be much easier more often for the Ana if you dash up as opposed to not dashing up, and it's very awkward if they most Anas are not gonna just nano you out of nowhere. At the higher you climb up the ladder, the less that will happen. And it could, because if you do that, it's gonna waste a lot of the nano time, and you just dashing up and winding up the nano only lasts a few seconds, so if you spend a second and a half of that winding up your blade and dashing up into the air, then a lot of it gets wasted. Anyway, so we're gonna move on to Hanzo. The first mistake here, before the round even starts, you should have at some point before the round started gone up to their spawn and shot a sonic arrow into their spawn door, so you can see what heroes they have faster. Even doing this with 20 seconds left is okay, just to show you it didn't happen. There's never a point when you win. You should every time you should be putting a sonic arrow into their front door and seeing what they have. It just gives you a small advantage, because you'd be like, hey, they have Reinhardt and they have Genji and they have this and they have that, and it allows your team to position themselves differently or to play things differently in the beginning, where they otherwise might not have known what they had yet. So they might be able to have been caught off guard. Anyway, that's the first mistake. And if you had done it at 20 seconds, you would have still had your sonic arrow up for this point. Worth noting. So, you need to work on the rhythm of your jiggle peek. This is one of the few mechanical things I want to talk about, Hanzo here. You need to work on the rhythm of your jiggle peek. And what I mean by jiggle peeking is what you see here when you fight when you duel a Hanzo. It is this wall is your cover, right? This wall is your cover. This Mercy cannot see you because she does not have line of sight, because if you make an arrow directly up towards you, this wall blocks her line of sight, right? But you have walls there, so you can see. So what you do is you totally load up an arrow, you move left until you get around, so you get an angle around the corner, because the corner will move this way across your screen if you move this way. And the moment that you have that angle, that small little gap right here that allows you to shoot in there, you just let the arrow go immediately and then move back this way, back towards safety. You can, as Hanzo, because you have walls, because you have a sonic arrow, you can load up the arrow, aim it beforehand, line up the crosshair here, and move around and shoot it, and in the moment you shoot it, move back. And what that's going to do, it is going to limit the amount of time that your body and head is exposed, and that the enemy has line of sight of you. The quicker you can do this, you just get around the corner, shoot it immediately, just the briefest moment around that corner, and then go back. But you should load up the arrow totally before you go around the corner. And what I mean by rhythm here is, you'll see in a second, it's like you don't finish loading it up until you get around the corner. You finish loading it up, and then you expose yourself for too long, line up the shot, then shoot, then go back. And you're just spending too much time exposed. It doesn't seem like that much, but it should be much quicker than this. We're gonna watch it one more time. See that? Too much lingering out in an exposed area. The longer you linger out there, the more often you're going to die to that Hanzo that's down there. And the more often you die to that Hanzo down there, the more often you're going to lose games. The more often you lose games, the less you're going to climb. So the less amount of time that you expose yourself, this is something called like min-maxing, right? The less amount of time you expose yourself for, even if you can shave off 1/10 of a second, the less often you're going to die, and the more often you're going to win if you don't die as often. That's just simple as that. You got to work on the rhythm. You got to work on loading it up totally before you get around the corner, only peeking for the briefest 0.005 seconds, and lining up the shot before you even if you don't have walls, after that first time of you peeking them, you should kind of know where their head is at roundabout, and kind of put your crosshair in that spot. See how you're looking directly at the floor right here? You could argue that you're really looking at this spot beyond the wall here. But you should always have your crosshair, something called crosshair placement. You should always have your crosshair where an enemy's head is most likely to be. Because you have walls here, you know that, hey, they're gonna be around about here. So you put the crosshair there, and then when the crosshair's there, you go around the wall and you shoot to that spot, that exact spot. You have to move your mouse a little bit as you're moving so that the crosshair doesn't move this way with it. But you just want to keep your crosshair focused on that spot. Even if you don't have the walls anymore, even after the walls expire, you can still put your crosshair in about that same spot and fire things into that area. Eventually, you're just going to hit someone's head. So, you know where the Hanzo is, right? You just saw him. Let's watch the Hanzo. Right? So you knew that he was exactly here. He was holding this spot. So you just keep firing into that spot. All you need to do is get this amount of gap. Shoot your arrow here, and then move back again. Load it up, go back around, shoot it here, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but yeah. See how the crosshair is too low, and then you have to flick it back up. Watch the crosshair. See how it's too low? When I said this is the area he was jiggle peeking from, he's gonna keep going back to that area. So just keep your crosshair there. But now you have to flick, and it makes the shot harder, as opposed to just having your crosshair there, here to begin with. Now there's an extra step. Now let's go around, move your crosshair up, then fire, then go back. Now you're just exposed for longer, and you're making the shot more difficult. Whereas he probably has his crosshair fixed on the spot where you are. Takes you longer to shoot that way.
Point.
Monkey low.
This is the brawling from before. This is the same problem from before. Instead of fighting on the perimeter, much like Genji, where you can do this with Hanzo, except with Hanzo you can get picks by fighting on the perimeter without having to ever insert yourself into the fight. But you just like, it's like, hey, I'm just gonna insert myself into this fight, and I'm here, and this is what's gonna happen now. And you're also trying to, you're doing two things. You're trying to force close range duels, and you're trying to close distance so you can make your shots easier, because this hitbox is gonna be much bigger. Look how big this hitbox is, right? Imagine if this Mora were, you know what, let's just go back. If this Mora is right here, her hitbox is about this big, or maybe even a little bit bigger than that, maybe like this big, right? It's not very big in comparison to what we just saw. Yes, so you see a lot of players, like I said before, you're gonna try to close distance to make this hitbox bigger, but what you've also done is make your own hitbox bigger and make it easier for you to die. And you've also put yourself in range of a Winston, in range of the Mora's right click. You've also put yourself just in harm's way too much. There's too many things going on around you, and you just can't.
Monkey low.
Because your idea is like, hey, I'm just gonna go in here and out-skill everyone and land a headshot on the Mora, then turn around and land 2 headshots onto the Winston, and then turn around and get... Stop making the game harder than it needs to be, right? Fight from a distance, get a pick or two eventually, fire a bunch of shots into the Mora, eventually one of them will land, as long as you play from safety, and eventually one of them will land, you'll get that kill, then you move on to the next target from that distance, until the fight gets into total cleanup mode, and then you can like try to just get in Storm Arrow or something if you want, but even then, there's no reason to. The other thing is that you have a Sonic Arrow loaded up here. There's no reason for it. There should always be a purpose behind your use of Storm Arrow, and you should use it predominantly to try to jiggle peek with walls. Or to give your team vital information. Like for instance, you can use it to help an Orisa and a Hog pull off a hook combo, because now you know exactly where they are around that corner. But yeah, there should always be an intent behind it, and you shouldn't just fire it because you're firing it and because you're bored. Because you're like, I'm gonna hit my shift button because I have it. Which is what happens here. That walls don't really help you because you already know exactly who's here. Your team's looking right at them.
Oh, Moira.
But yeah, you're just gonna jump in and try to outscale everything.
Hammond.
It's okay. Like I said, you're not gonna hit every shot. The reality is you're gonna miss a lot of the time. And now because you've decided to brawl in close distance instead of fighting the perimeter, you've died. And while it seems like, ah, man, my teammates aren't healing me, and my tanks aren't taking the space that we need, and all that. And or you could say, oh, I just need to land one more shot on that hamster, I'm gonna kill him, and then I would have had more time to turn around if I killed him faster to deal with these threats. Like, I just need to be mechanically better, or my teammates need to be better. Those are usually the two responses you'll get about why did I die? Why aren't you all the way back there? If you're all the way back there, none of this happens. How am I liking the event so far? Hey, Backsword. I like it. I like the workshop. Don't get me wrong. I've never been about the modding and the custom games community type of stuff. I like the skins. Skins are nice, but I don't really care because I don't use them. I buy them. I always make sure I'm more of a collector. I make sure I have everything. But I always use NYXL skins. I have an NYXL skin for every hero. So, I don't really care about events. I more so care about features, and I care about new heroes and new maps. I care about content. So while yes, the event is cool and nice, and I like it that it's there, it also brings in new players or I don't want to say it's maybe some new players, but it brings players back and it revitalizes the community a little bit. I just don't really care that much, to be completely honest with you. I just don't care. You're afraid to be shit at long range. You are going to miss a lot. It is okay if you miss. Don't worry about your weapon accuracy. Too many people get caught up in what's a good accuracy for Hanzo. A lot of things that depends on a lot of things. How many tanks did it? How long of a distance are you fighting at? How much are you just spamming down a choke to try to catch someone that pick? Does the other team have a far? Because that makes it infinitely harder to land a shot because you got to land an air shot. Projectile, that can be a little bit difficult. With Hanzo, it's not that bad because his projectile is really fast. But anyway, it depends on a lot of things. Don't worry about missing. You're gonna miss a lot. That's okay. Stay alive. This is more important than the little skull you get in the middle of your screen. This is so much more important. If you stay alive, always have potential to turn a fight around. The longer you stay alive, the longer you have potential to get your damage, get your ult, and then maybe turn a fight around. If you're in the middle of a fight and you brawl and you trade out, which you just did, you killed the Moira and then you died, almost got to Hammond. But it's just more often than not, you're just gonna end up losing a lot because you're just gonna have to rely on your teammates and it's just a crapshoot. You're gonna get 50-50. If it's always a 5v5 because you traded out, then it's just gonna be 50-50. Depends on whether or not you have the better team. And you don't want to leave that up to your team, do you? The only way you can have complete control is if you stay alive. Because even the best player in the world can't get kills when they're dead. Yeah, I care about balance changes most. Yeah, same. Yeah, Backsword, I agree. Balance changes are probably the most important thing. I do also... Well, features... for me right now, my biggest thing is features. I want things like... I'm gonna say something controversial, but I want a roll queue, and I want it yesterday. I want things like guilds and clans or whatever. I don't think that's that important. I don't think that's gonna change the game as drastically as it's gonna. Because I don't think Overwatch really works that way. But I want anything to shake up the game. Revamped endorsement system, like touch it up in some capacity. I want replay system. And match history on a scoreboard. I don't think scoreboards are going to change toxicity. I think the system we have now is actually worse because it forces players to guess what other people have, and it forces them to fill in blanks on their own. And like, oh, I have gold. Everyone else must have much less than me, whereas maybe they're right behind you, and there's no way for you. Roll Q and Force 222, yeah, what I care about, and I think that would be really. I think it'd be much easier to balance the game too if you don't have to worry about tank stacking and healer stacking. Healer stacking being more of a big yeah. Anyway, let's Overwatch League is skins are the best. Yeah, a lot of people like the Titans. I would say green is probably my favorite color, but I don't like green and blue together. Then again, I don't really like the NYXL colors that much, but I only root for them because of the New York team, and I root for all the New York teams. I got a Rangers jersey over here, which you guys can't see. I got a bunch of Jets jerseys back there. I'm a Knicks fan, Mets. All my teams are garbage. But anyway, I root for all the New York teams because I grew up in New York, and I went to school in New York, and actually live in Pennsylvania now, but I always root for New York teams. That's why I picked the Excelsior. Hacksaw is really good. Genji's ridiculous. Hey, board. Anyway, we're gonna move on. Anyway, the point being that you should take away from this is that staying alive is more important than getting kills. And if you're over here off on your own, even if you miss 20 shots, as long as you hit 2 or 3 of them, you might have just gotten 2 or 3 kills. Or at least 1. And yeah, the fight is gonna get drawn out, but your Orisa can hold space for a while. Take advantage of the Orisa holding that space forever, and the healer's just pumping all the heals into them. If you're not getting heals, that's fine. Play at a distance where you're not going to take any damage and you don't need heals. And then if the Orisa's buying all that time for you, then just sit back there and eventually you'll get a kill and turn the fight around. Then you made it a 6v5, and then all of a sudden your team's in a really good spot. You don't help anything by dying, though. Yeah, Hacksaw is really good. He's one of the. I think he's one of the better projectile DPS players in the world. Not the best.
Nice.
Titans just have an embarrassment of riches of players. I don't think their players are that amazing though. I don't think like they have like too many all-stars. I think they just play together the best. Titans. I mean, obviously the Shock beat them, but that was our only loss so far. I would still say the Titans are probably the best team in the league. I also think they're just the best GOAT teams, the best GOATs team, and that's what makes them the best. I think that they can hang in with anyone with dive, especially since they have Hacksaw. But the Runaway, who is now Vancouver Titans, has been playing GOATs for years. At least over a year. I don't want to say years. Maybe it's been ever since after the Mercy nerf that happened. And ever since Brig got introduced, they've been playing GOATs. And they contenders. If you think back to Overwatch League Stage 1, people weren't running GOATs in Overwatch League Stage, not Stage 1, Season 1. Even in the Grand Finals, Brig was there for a few months, and they still weren't running it. But they've been running GOATs since forever, so they just are just better at it than everyone else because they've been playing it for so long. They've just gotten that good at communicating about what needs to be done, and they just. But I'm wondering about what's going to happen if Overwatch League switches to a forced 2-2-2, and teams start going dive and bunker. I'm wondering what's going to happen then. I think that NYXL will become really good again when that happens, because they'll be able to use Sable Bee and Pine and Flower and all that. And Mono is actually more comfortable on Winston anyway, even though he's been playing really well on the Reinhardt. Alright. I haven't really talked too much about Storm Arrow use. I do want to talk about it a little bit. And I know I've gone super in depth in this review, and this review is taking forever, but this is the only review I'm doing today, so it's okay that it's taking forever. Storm Arrow usage. And it's not necessarily you've been doing it wrong, it's just kind of that I kind of want to cover this in a Hanzo VOD, because I don't know when's the next time I'll get him. So if anyone's watching one of my VODs on YouTube or something like that, trying to figure out how to play Hanzo, I want to talk about this. Storm Arrows, right? This thingy. The times when you want to use it. One, if someone dives you, these are not necessarily in order. Is this usually I like to have these in a list of like priority. This is not necessarily in order. It's just kind of whatever happens first, or whenever you think you can get value out of it. If someone dives you, close range. Handwriting's really bad with this, but it's impossible to write. Close range threat. So like this Hammond has close distance, and you're like, especially if it's a tank, you just load up your Storm Arrows, and it just increases your DPS, your potential damage per second, that you're gonna be able to. Whereas if you just loaded up an arrow and shot it, and then loaded up an arrow and shot it, you have much higher burst potential with the Storm Arrows. 2, tank busting. This ability is going to be much easier to land on tanks, obviously, because you're just going to get more damage done to tanks more consistently, and that burst damage, if you do 200 or 300 damage to a tank, it's going to be a big deal. Whereas trying to hit a tracer from across the map, you might land one of these arrows, and whatever, she's just going to stay and heal, or whatever, right? You're just going to get much more reliable damage onto tanks. 3, barrier, breaking. So you get that damage in onto the Rhine, onto the Rhine barrier, the Orisa barrier, wherever, and just help your team to consistently break through that barrier first. It's going to be really easy to do that because the barrier is going to be more or less stationary, or just so huge you're not going to miss it, and you're just going to help your team a lot in that way. 4, ult generator, ult gen. These are the 4 uses of Storm Arrows. And if none of these things are quite applying, and the close range threat doesn't have to be a tank. It could be like Tracer or something who's directly on you. you're gonna have an easier time landing. Sure, you can just land one arrow to the dome and finish it. But that's pretty much true of any situation. You're gonna win more fights more often if you just use storm arrows and try to either force her to back off because of the threat of your storm arrows, or just land 1 or 2 shots and then hit a melee, depending on whether or not. Would you count finishing off targets you body shot also an option? Yeah, sure. Why not? 5, finish. Okay, that makes sense. I actually hadn't considered that. Because with the storm arrow, you don't have to load up a shot. You don't have to take the time to draw back an arrow. It just instantaneously, as soon as you hit E, your shot's ready to go. And you can shoot 6 straight. So getting that last hit is going to help you get that last hit much more quickly and reliably. And it's going to help you get that damage much quicker. So yeah, that's actually a good point. Thank you for that. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I wouldn't have thought of that. Although I have done that before in my games, but I guess I didn't really think of that. Yeah, so anyway. If any of these things happen, these things happen, it's okay to hit E. Just go ahead and hit E. If none of these situations are present, just save it. Keep it in your back pocket for in case this happens. Or in case you need to bust a tank, or in case a barrier pops up. If you already have your ult, don't worry about this. But in case you need to finish someone. Other than that, just keep it in your back pocket. Also, I think you do this, but you should get into practice. You can hit E and hold down. You can hold down left click to shoot, and it shoots faster. But you should get in the habit of hitting left click individually for all 6 arrows. 6, right? I think it's 6. Or I think they reduced it to 5 at some point. Maybe it was 6 originally. No, it's still. No, it's still 6. Okay, yeah. You should get in the habit of left clicking individually for each arrow, and that's because it's gonna force you to have better timing. If you hold down left click, you're like, oh, I gotta do these little micro flicks to get my crosshair here, and then get my crosshair here if he moves, and then get my crosshair here if I finish that kill, and then get my crosshair here. If you do that, you're forced to go with the rhythm of how the arrow shoots. Like, look how fast it shoots, right? Normally. I think the first 3 you held down. That's the rhythm of goes 1, 2, 3. If you save them individually, it's gonna force you to not use it until you've lined up the shot. So you're gonna aim more a little bit. I realize aiming more sounds like a forehead moment, but like if you left click individually for each one, it's gonna force you. That's my tip. They reduced the time frame. Ah, yeah, that's what they. Hanzo's the best. Yeah, Hanzo's one of the best DPS, if not the best.
Every fucking time.
The frustration with this Pharah. This Pharah is really crafty in the way that she jumps on you. I like that you save leap for when you need it. And you wait for someone to pounce on you. A lot of times this happens. You very rarely ever use it for no reason, I noticed. Whereas a lot of Hanzos kind of just toss it out there whenever. And that's good. But you're so far forward here that like, if a Pharah were to jump on you right now, you wouldn't be able to get away because you wouldn't be able to cover enough distance with your leap, which is exactly what happens. And then we're gonna get frustrated because we died to a pharmacy. I'm gonna skip over that so we don't have to hear it. No, not your best moment, but don't worry, I get frustrated.
Watch the Pharah.
If not worse. At least the same. The same go for Zen, or no, since he fires a bit slower. Depends on the situation. If you're just spamming down a choke and hoping for the best, just go ahead and hold down left click. If you're trying to like deal with a tracer who's right on top of you, don't hold down left click. You know, line it up, shoot. Line it up, shoot. Line it up, shoot. Yeah. So, hope that answers your question. Silent darkness. Sorry, the yellow is a bit hard to read. I don't know if you appear as yellow in your chat, but you appear as yellow in my chat. I think that's something you set, right? The appearance. I'm somewhat new to Twitch.
Mercy, she's resting.
Okay. So, look, you use the storm arrow to get the barrier down, then you use it to try to finish. Well, I mean, you might as well continue to use it because you already had it activated.
Mercy, she's resting.
Nice that you called it out.
Nice.
Thank you.
I mean, there's nothing else to focus, so it's like Mercy is like a forehead, like obvious call. There's nothing else for the player to do anyway, but we're gonna talk about we're gonna talk about the dragon. Talk about the dragon. This VOD is gonna go upwards of 2 hours, so you're welcome for all the in-depth information. We're gonna talk about dragon usage, and the way a lot of people view it in the lower ELOs is like, hey, I'm gonna get some big kills with this dragon. It's really one of two things. It's either A, tool, which I'll get into in a minute, or B, combo piece. This is the way you should think about Hanzo's ult. Tool or combo. That's it. And what I mean by this, and the C that a lot of people want it to be is kill device slash play the game machine. And it's just not that. It's way too easy to reliably avoid, especially once you start getting against better players. Especially when they're going to know that you have it because they're all tracking. Use it for zoning. Yeah. Mega VOD. So the biggest two uses here are going to be combo is easy. That's like, hey, we have grab and we have dragon. We have whatever you want to try to combo it with and dragon. Grab is the obvious one. And then, oh, it's not backtracking. And then you have left, what you have left is you have tool. What I mean by tool is we're going to go back to the drawing board here again. Or think about it this way. This is a point, right? This is just any generic point. You have, let's say it's like a King of the Hill. You have like maybe Shrine or something on Nepal. Steps here, and you have your team comes from this way. Sure, you can go around and flank and stuff, but whatever. So you got this little pillar here, and that's the map. You got the other team is they've already gotten a space on you, right? Or let's say they have the point. So their Ryan's up here, he's blocking over here, and their Ana's back here, and the Mercy's over here, which is so big. Zarya's here. Maybe they have a soldier back here, and they have Reaper over here. Reaper's huge too. And now your team's trying to get in, so you get your Ryan here, and you got whatever, you got whatever. You, the Hanzo, right? The best, most optimal use of this dragon is not going to be, hey, I'm going to fire it directly through these guys and try to get a kill. Or I'm going to fire it directly at their backline and try to get a kill. The best use is to fire it here. You fire it this way. And you separate them. Now what's going to happen is you're going to force the Reaper to come this way. You're going to force the Zarya to come this way. And you're going to force the Ryan to stay where he is. And now their backline has to move away from it. Or they have to go this way. And now you've created a situation where your team can go in. Your team can go in a 6v3 and just stomp these guys. Because their backline separated. They're not going to be able to see, they're not going to be able to heal, they're not going to be able to contribute in any sort of meaningful way. And you just go in and you absolutely annihilate this Ryan, and then you move past them and annihilate whoever's next. You've separated them. It is a tool to leverage an advantageous fight. I know that seems like a little bit of an abstract concept, and it's like any given situation it could be different, but really you're just trying to use it to isolate someone or a group of people from the rest of the team. Yeah, zoning. Like you said, I use it for zoning. You said that a while ago. Yeah. This is how you want to use Hanzo. I wanted to talk about that. Again, it's the same reason I talk about the other stuff. I want to talk about that in Hanzo VOD.
Same back a bit because they seem to like.
I'll probably put this on YouTube and label it 2-hour Mega VOD. This is the jiggle peak rhythm is a little bit off. You're spending too much time. You're spending too much time peeking and not enough time lining up the shot behind the wall. Line up the shot behind the wall, then go around and peek, and then shoot the arrow real quick. Spend too much time vulnerable. And the longer you spend vulnerable, the more often this Hanzo is going to eventually hit that shot. You got a little lucky because he didn't hit it. And you got also a little unlucky because he didn't hit yours, but you know, like I said, staying alive is more important than getting killed. Reduce the amount of time that you're Now you're worried about the Pharah. That's why you put the right. Like I said, every sonic arrow should have an intent. Sometimes you do have intent behind yours. The last two had intent. The one you put down there, you put so you can jiggle beat the wall. That is Hanzo's bread and butter, by the way. You want to do that as often as you can. Put something down where you know where enemies are going to be, and then jiggle peek a wall. But you're putting this one here because you're worried about the Pharah flying around that top corner like you did last time. So you're aware of it. This Pharah is sneaky. This is a sneaky Pharah. Now, she actually, you were kind of ready for it. You thought it was going to come from back there, but you were kind of still ready for the Pharah. And you end up just outskilling her, which is nice. And you might as well use the rest of this.
Monkey no bubble.
You just barely got your leap cooldown back in time. This is the one time... Look at this. Okay, so you leap away. Whenever someone engages you, as Hanzo, you want your leap cooldown to leap away from them. Separate. Instead of closing distance like you were before, now you're doing the proper thing and creating more distance. You're gonna fall back and create more distance. Yes, the Pharah can kill you from a range too, but you're gonna be able to more reliably kill her the further. If you had a battle from maximum distance, like if she was all the way back at the choke, Hanzo will more often than not kill the Pharah. The Pharah wants to close distance on you to make her shotgun, or to make her rocket launcher into a rocket shotgun. I had a hard time saying that. Ever tried Stat Banana for maps and showing stuff? No. I don't know what that is. Is it like a thing I can just pull up and like show an aerial show of the map, so I can just do things without having to draw them? That would be much better. Anyway, so you save the leap cooldown to separate. Whenever someone dives you, you create distance. That's the reason for the leap cooldown. That is the whole purpose is there.
Monkey.
You leaped away for no reason. This is the one time I saw you do it. Maybe you do it at some other point in the VOD, but this is the one time I noticed it. You leaped for no reason. Now it's on a 5-second cooldown. You could have just as easily dropped down without hitting the leap. Oh, uh-oh. And now watch. Watch how barely we get the leap cooldown back. Once it's gonna leap us, we just barely got it back in time. If that happened a hair of a second faster, we would have taken a lot more damage here. But look, you leap away, and look how much distance you've created. Also partially because the Winston's leap pushes you away, so you get a little bit extra momentum. But now instead of keeping that range, because we've just separated so much, instead of keeping that range, we're gonna close distance again. This is where we start to go wrong again. Because we're gonna start closing distance and trying to brawl. Trunking down tanks. And look, because you walked it in here, you walked into the line of sight down here. The meat of their team, they're all here, here, and here. And yeah. Oh. But yeah. It's because you tried to close that distance. You could have backed off and gone a little bit further back this way and put yourself in a safer position, and now you're behind them when they try to push through. Try to push through. But instead, you put yourself into the middle of the fight, tries to close distance, and it gets you killed again. That's the common theme here, right? It's a subscription service.
Saria, get the Saria. She's
how much is it?
side.
I'd be willing to pay for something like that, but not a ton.
Yeah, that's it for us.
Oh, it has some features without it. Okay, as long as I just had the map viewer, that would be awesome. Thanks for the tip. I'm gonna look into it.
Go back.
Someone advised me to do visor.gg for it, but I avoid that because I don't want to download any of that stuff onto my computer because I know that it is viewed as a cheating software too, because there's the overlay that you can use for visor.gg, and I don't want to have anything related to Visor on my computer because I just don't want that to get picked up by Overwatch's whatever net they use to catch whatever anti-cheat software that they have that checks for that kind of stuff. I just don't want to have anything like that on my computer. I don't want to, I don't want to get banned. Maybe that's overly cautious and ridiculous, but if someone once advised me to use Visor, and I just don't want to touch that. $50 for a year. lot of time happens. A lot of time goes by here without you doing anything. Nice use of storm arrows. Break the bubble. Helps your team do damage. But a lot of time passes here without you doing anything, right? Because you're up on the high ground. Then you use your leap cooldown for no reason to get over here. I'm not sure if you think you can stand on this or not. You can't. You leave the high ground for no reason. This is something that happens a lot in the second point. You'll notice that you leave the high ground for no reason. You could be still up there where you just were, up here, and shooting down on people. But instead, you're like, I'm gonna close distance, get myself into the fight, stand in the middle of the point. Now you realize that you're out in the middle of the open, you're too vulnerable, so you start having to kite. And now look how much time goes by without you contributing to the fight in any sort of way. The team fortunately just carries.
Monkey.
That all would have been avoided if you had just either been up here to begin with, which is better because you have this wall here, or stayed over there on the high ground up there in the back corner. This is positional.
Hanzo on the right.
Yeah, he's signal peeking you and you're not. You're just standing out. You're standing out in the middle of the open. You're giving him a major advantage. Yes, he's on a lower ground than you, which sucks for him, and he's outnumbered and people are going to push him. But all he has to do is put his crosshair in the exact spot that you're standing right now and peek the corner and shoot, and a better Hanzo will hit that more often. Leaving the high ground is the same kind of symptom with, yeah. Yep, it's all the same thing, really. It's all comes down to you trying to close distance too often because you feel more comfortable fighting up close. Unfortunately, this is very common. And I think that the biggest, most rampant issue is that. And it all comes down to that stuff. I'm fine with the leap cooldown here. You're just trying to get across so you can get back up to the high ground over here because apparently you want this high ground better. I mean, this is the high ground you like better, that's fine. I like the other one better because it gives you cover. But you also have this wall here you can stand behind. Technically, this has cover too. If you stand far enough back here. If you stand up here, all of a sudden that becomes not good because if you start taking damage, you gotta retreat all the way back here to get the cover. Or you gotta drop down. Or expend your leap cooldown. Anyway, if this is a cover you like better, that's fine.
Go back, team.
I'm just gonna let this go because nothing's happening. So sorry for the silence.
Far on the left.
Hold up. When you're a backliner, I want to mention this. I saw Jane mention this the other day, and I thought it was a good point. When you're a backliner, you can see a lot more of the battlefield than everyone else, just inherently, but just because you have so much better of a point of view than everyone. Think about what this Orisa can see. This way, that's it. Doesn't know what's happening up here. Doesn't know what's happening up here. Doesn't know what's happening up here. Even if it seems obvious to you, like, hey, Farah's top left, it might not be obvious to the Orisa. But just call it out. Just be like, hey, Farah's top left, she's up there. Just that amount of information might be enough for the Orisa to say, you know what, I'm gonna back up and move my shield here. This way she can't fly in this way and get the angle down on me. Or this way she can't fly in this way and get a shot angle down on me. This. Just that small amount of information might be enough to help. I mean, is the Orisa realistically gonna do that in gold? Probably not. She shouldn't be down here in the first place, but whatever. I wouldn't be surprised if Anastasia get a small nerf soon just because of how high their stats are. You know, I wouldn't be shocked yet either, but I think that more or less that they're gonna start trying to balance around that. If you think about the last patch we got, what were they balancing around, right? They tried to nerf the hell out of goats. They weren't balancing around gold. They weren't balancing around bronze. They weren't balancing around plat or even GM. In my GM games, whether or not I get goats is it's like 50-50. If not, it's actually decreased a lot since then. And now it's pretty much only if you're in a top 500 game you start to see goats again. And really, what they were bouncing around was they were bouncing around the pros. I think that's what they're going to start seeing more. I think you're going to start seeing more bouncing around Overwatch League. So if Orisa gets nerfed, I would say Orisa might be a little unlikely because she's not seeing a ton of play in the pros. If they switch to a Force 2-2-2, you'll see a lot more Orisa, and that's when you might see Orisa get scaled back. Or the other main tanks will get scaled up, which I don't know if that would be smart. Um, hey, I wouldn't complain if they buffed the hell out of Ryan. You know, I won't be mad. The dragon brings the arrows through him. Yeah, dude.
They're going right. They're going right.
So you drifted forward too much. If you were holding back here, wrong color, dude. If you're holding back here, the Winston wouldn't have been able to jump on you, or at least he would have had to overcommit a lot more, and you would just been able to drop back onto your back line. Because you're so far up, now you're forced to drop out into the middle of the open. It's nice that you had your leap cooldown to expend to get out, though.
Monkey on high ground, right?
Look how much separation you've gotten. Now it looks like you're trying to do what I said. Separate the monkey, right? That's why you're shooting it this way. You're not trying to kill anyone here. Oh, maybe you did try to get it.
Right.
Are you trying
Monkey on
to
high ground, right?
clarify this for me? Because you maybe you saw the mercy and you tried to flick it towards that.
Hanzo low in the back.
But yeah, you should think about your ult as a thing that gets you kills indirectly, not quite directly. That theory just made Hanzo 100 times cooler. It actually did. I like the idea that the dragon just is like, yo, bro, here's an arrow. Murder for the dragon, please.
Most almost ready.
Again, not the stream, that's the VOD.
Oh,
You wanted to force them to stay out of engagement. That's cool. This looks huge, but this is a terrible use of it. Nothing happening. All she's done, all this person Magikarp has done, is shave 10 seconds off the clock because they're just gonna respawn in 10 seconds. You could have held that bomb for the next engagement and delayed the engagement out. Your Reaper also does this at some point where he ults in the middle of nothing's happening. And this is what you see in Gold a lot. It's ult discipline. It's not necessarily your mistake. If anything, you're too conservative with your ults at times. But you see this a lot, and just don't do this when you're chasing for kills. Don't use your ult. When the fight's dead, just wait for the engagement. As on defense, you're not fighting the enemy; you're fighting the clock, right? And if you can get 4 kills, but it only shaves 10 seconds off the clock, you didn't achieve much. Wait for the engagement to start, and you don't want to start investing ults until they start investing ults, or unless there's something that you're trying to avoid, like you're trying to get a grav off before they get trance because you're ult tracking, and you know they don't have it. That's different. But more or less, you want to be passive and react, or you want to be, you want to only use the amount of ults that you need to use to win the fight, and that's it. And you want to elongate the fight as much as you can. So wait for them to engage, wait for the brawl to kind of happen, you know, let 30 or 40 seconds run off, and then use your bomb and try to get the big play. Or then use your Reaper ult, which the Reaper ends up doing soon. Thanks for the follow, Terminus. Thank you. By the way, guys, if you're new here, my VOD reviews aren't all like this. This is the longest one I've ever done. I just agreed to go super in-depth in this one because I'm only doing one VOD review today. So this one's been going on for like almost 2 hours. I'm just analyzing every detail of every fight. So this VOD's almost over. After this, I'm gonna play probably some quick play and just cool off. But just for a little bit. If any of you guys want to join me for that, that's cool.
He's low.
But yeah, I'm gonna be playing quick play after this.
Monkey.
This is just a lot of this is fighting at a range, fighting in the perimeter. This is better. Look how much less threatened you are. Right? No one's been able to push you at all. Now you're gonna close distance. This is when the fight goes south. Excuse me. The Magikarp. Yeah. Use splash. Magikarp uses splash. Rip.
In the back.
Okay.
He's low.
So
Monkey no.
use the leap for no reason there. It's a little unfortunate. Gotta be a little bit more conservative with that. But again, like I said, a lot of times when you've needed to leap, you had it. But see how you're kind of fighting at a distance here? You could take it a step further and be a little bit further up, or be get back on the high ground for a sec. But that's fine. Where you are right now is fine.
Monkey.
But eventually, you get tired of kind of nothing happening, and you're like, Symmetra's right here, and she's too far away, and she's too small. See, it looks like almost you were fine shooting at the Winston because he's a bigger target. But the Symmetra's like, she's so far away, I'm not confident in my ability to hit her from here, so I'm just gonna jump onto the point where she has all of her turrets and put myself all the way over here. And now you've just put yourself in the worst position ever. And you're just in panic mode now. You gotta be nano to get saved. All the while, you could have just been back where you were and been fine. And none of that would have happened. You might have still lost ticks. But even you pushing up didn't prevent it anyway. It's okay to give up ticks if you're gonna win a fight. Always prioritize winning a fight to surrendering ticks. There are times when you don't need to surrender ticks, when you have a massive advantage in a fight. But there are times when it might even be better just to surrender a tick or two and then retake. You could have done either there. You could have stalled on the point and prevented a tick, or probably prevented the second tick. Or you could have, especially when you got nanoed, or you could have just surrendered the tick and stayed back and waited for your team to go and then retook. But you did neither of those things. Closing distance to outskill. Look, that's a nice freeze frame right there. Look at that. Anyway. Closing distance syndrome. Continues. Intensifies, rather. I realize you're still just learning the projectile DPS, so you're not as confident in your shots. Because you did mention that in the beginning.
Down the right.
But, you know, nice. So you land that arrow from a distance, and look, someone cleans it up. You being all the way up here wouldn't help at all. We just put you in danger and make things worse. You contributed from all the way back here, and you did 120 damage, 125 damage, I think, right? 125, something. To Mercy, and then look, your Ryan hits a fire strike and cleans it up. You're contributing from back here, and all the while not putting yourself in anything. Now, in a cleanup situation, you can absolutely move forward a little bit, but you still want to be a backline here. Hanzo's a backline here. You don't want to be in front of everyone, but you can move the backline. I talked about this in the last VOD I think I did, the last Ana one I did. Maybe it was the last one, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago. I talked about moving the backline, right? The front line, people always think about the front line moving, as Orion, you know, he moves up to move the front line up, or he moves back to move the whole team back and like move the front line backwards. Nobody ever talks about the fact that the back line should shift with it. If Orion's moving up, should move the back line up too. Orion's moving back, the back line back. It should be like, you know, everything moves together. And I'm dancing on stream. That's the balance around both the ladder and meta and the Overwatch League meta. Yeah, I really do think that they're focusing more on the Overwatch League. Then again, if that were true, there'd be massive nerfs coming for goats, wouldn't there? But I think that these rumors about the 222 force thing, that's why if there's no balance patch scheduled, unless we get some sort of massive PTR in the next coming days, if there's no massive balance patch, there's no way they're gonna just let goats just be like this for the entire season. So they have to have something else planned. And if it is something else, then it's probably the roll luck. That's why if there is nothing planned, then it must be that. Anyway. Yes, you can. It's nice that you're in the back line now, but since your team is in cleanup phase, you could actually just move up and move the back line up. You know, don't move up so far that you're putting yourself further than the back line. But yeah, move the back line forward and it'll be fine. That happens to me more often than you will ever know. That just happened to you, the wall climb.
Symmetra.
Okay, so Hanzo hits a shot on you. You see the arrow come this way. I might not have even tried to turn around and try to take this duel right away. Since he already has a beat on you and you have to find him, he's gonna fire the next arrow before you even get off. He's gonna fire 2 arrows on you before you get off 1. As soon as that first arrow goes past you, you should probably just jump down.
Okay.
But it's nice that as soon as you take 1, you give up on the fight. Just keep trying to duel.
Hanzo flanking from the left.
But actually, you do eventually keep trying to duel. Put a Sonic arrow up there and then jiggle peek the wall. That'd be better. Oh, well, you didn't get it till like basically you got the kill. Never mind. Well, you did get it for a second there. Anyway. I don't want to micromanage every mistake, and that wasn't. I mean, you hit the shot, so Whatever, dude. Did you not take damage from that? Oh, you did. You just got healed. Okay. So, chasing the ball is probably not the best idea when you could just stay up here on the high ground when he falls. But you do get him pretty low. It does work out.
Mercy low, mercy low.
So, I'm not going to comment too much on the ball stuff that just happened because there's a whole lot of nothing. I would probably have stayed on the high ground there, but it kind of worked out anyway. But you still are doing that close distance to brawl thing.
Mercy low,
You know,
mercy low.
not going to be a dead horse with that. But this ult I am going to talk about. I think the better use would be to send it this way. The better use would be to send it this way. This way, this Symmetra and this Mercy are forced to go this way. Or the Mercy's forced to real quick Guardian Angel over here before the dragon gets to her and abandon the Symmetra completely and you get that free pick. Either way, you're just going to generate a free pick. If not two. But you end up actually throwing it. You end up actually throwing it here. You end up actually throwing it here. Which gives them an opportunity to just, if they're better players and react faster, gives them an opportunity to just move this way. And you get no value and your dragon just does nothing zone anymore. I mean, it does force them to move further out, bubble out further this way. And maybe the Ryan is able to clean them up. But it's really not ideal. I think putting this ult, if I'm going to nitpick, putting this ult further this way is just going to isolate these two. Start thinking of Dragon more like May's Wall in a way.
Turrets behind.
You're using it to trap people and isolate them.
We got.
Yeah, you can Guardian Angel right through it and not die. But you don't know how much health she had. There are a lot of variables to change it. She's also got to fly right past the Rhine in order to do that, maybe, or she's got to abandon. Like I said, she's got to abandon the Symmetra, and you're just gonna get that pick. It's just better to get that guaranteed one pick as opposed to the potential of, hey, they both moved out of the way and now you got nothing. You got no value out of it. If you can take a guaranteed pick with your ult, you should take it. Unless like the situation where you absolutely need a team wipe. Like situations are always different in Overwatch, but yeah, I would argue that it would have been better to just try to trap them. Even if the Mercy flew away, it's fine. You still would have gotten a Symmetra. Well, if that was your idea and you just mechanically didn't do it right, like you just flicked a little too far to the left, that's fine. Like I said, I'm not going to comment too much on the mechanics. I don't really care if you're an aim god or not. I just don't. I don't think that's necessary to be a good Overwatch player or even a great one. But yeah. So yeah, if you made a mechanical mistake, that's fine. I just want to show you what the ideal play is there. And so yeah, so finally we made it through this whole VOD. You actually end up winning this one. It's close though. I don't care. By the way, if you guys are gonna send me VODs, I don't care if they're wins or losses, as long as they're close and you die a few times. Don't send me a game where you like go 32-1. I don't want that. I don't want that. That's trash. Get that out of here. I don't. There's just not gonna be enough mistakes. I mean, sure there'll be mistakes in there. Maybe times where you use a cooldown when you shouldn't have, and maybe bad ult timing, something like that. But there's just not gonna be enough concrete evidence there for me to help you that much. Like, don't send me your best game is what I'm telling you. Also, don't send me your worst game where you go 0-20. That doesn't help. It's just your team got stomped, and it's hard to decipher what's your mistake and what's the team just being trash, and you're just trying to 1v6 to compensate. Or maybe you just, didn't sleep enough that day, and it's your worst game, and should be tossed out. Just send me the closest ones you can that are back and forth games. Those are the best ones. By the way, if you do want to send me a VOD, I'm gonna talk about the main points again about this VOD and how I think this player can improve specifically, what I thought was specifically wrong, and then how to specifically fix that. I'm not just gonna tell you what's wrong and not tell you how to fix it. But anyway, before I get into that, I'm gonna tell you guys why I have you here. Before you guys all leave, because I'm gonna play quick play, and that's gonna be boring as hell. I have my Discord server. It is in the panels below. In the social panel, there's a permanent Discord link that will bring you to my Discord. Feel free to join that and submit a VOD to me. I need VODs desperately. I am running out of VODs, and I had to only do one VOD today because I don't want to use up all my VODs. I only have like 1 or 2 VODs left, and I didn't want to use them all in one go. That's why I did such a long VOD review today. And terminus benefits. Anyway, yeah, aimbotters can lose. Yes, exactly. Game sense is way more important. Is more important. Anyway, if you join that Discord, there is a VOD submission channel there where you can send me your VODs. Please send me YouTube VODs only, YouTube links. So you know, make your VOD into a YouTube video, upload it to YouTube, and send me the link. Make sure it's at least 720p and 30 frames per second minimum. 1080p, 60 frames is better, but it's not necessary. 720p, 30 frames per second is fine. This VOD was that way, and is 720p 30 went fine. So, and you know, try to keep the bitrate to an acceptable extent, but that's effective. Anyway, it can be any hero, any rank. I don't care. In my rules, in my Discord, it says you can't use. I gotta take that down. It says you can't use pugs or you can't use scrims. I'm okay with pugs and scrims actually. I've since rescinded that. Just don't make it quick play and not arcade. But yeah, ranked pug scrim, something like that. Send me that. And yeah, I will review your VOD for free on stream. And yeah. And that's it, and I'll try to help you become a better player. Even if you're already a really good player, I can review GMs just the same as I can review bronze. So I've done GM teams before. I have a lot of coaching experience. Please send me your VODs. I need them desperately. Don't make me beg, please. Anyway, so back to this VOD. I got my notes here. I got general notes, Genji notes, and Hanzo notes. So we're just gonna go through that real quick. I thought that there was in general. I'm just gonna go over your general trends. The biggest thing is that you try to close distance too often to win fights or to prove your aim, and that you end up brawling because of it too much instead of playing on the perimeter. Thanks for the follow, No Tongue. Hope I said that right. Thank you, I appreciate that. Not making proper use of cooldowns at times, like you know the few times where you sent out the Sonic arrow for no reason, or when you dashed and walked back through the enemy space. Or a few times where you wasted leap. Yeah, things like that. Be sure that when you're using a cooldown, there's a reason you're using it. There should always be intent behind what you're doing. You know, try not to autopilot. When you autopilot, you end up expending abilities for no reason and standing in awkward places and not ult tracking and things catch you off guard. Don't do any of that. Consciously think when you're playing. Think about what you're doing at any given time, and there should be an intent behind what you're doing. You don't need to farm your ultimate when you already have it. There was a lot of times when you were kind of just throwing things out there, like specifically on Genji. Yeah, like I said, position yourself around a perimeter. Oh, and you tunnel vision onto 1v1s at times, and you view the game as a series of 1v1s. Don't do that. Try to just stay safe and get poke kills from afar when you're playing ranged heroes specifically, and view the game as more of a macro experience as opposed to a micro mini duel and then another. With Genji, like I said, don't wait for Nano to blade. Just call for Nano and then dash up in the air. You should attack with a plan and have an escape plan in mind if you go in with a dash. If you're gonna use dash to engage, you're like, hey, I'm gonna dash through a hog that's right here and then climb up this and jump over here. So I'm gonna dash through here, then wall climb up, and then like that. You should have an escape plan. You should have a general plan. Or you should have like a, hey, I'm gonna be on the perimeter and farm my ult. I'm gonna go up here, shoot shurikens down until I get my ult, and then I'm gonna dash up and go in. You should have a plan. Or I'm gonna, you know, poke the Ana from afar until I land a couple shurikens on her and she gets low. Or if I see that she's isolated, I'll pounce her. Whatever. There should be a plan. Yeah, that's pretty much it for Genji. I talk about animation canceling and stuff. It seems like you already know that stuff. So I'm not gonna talk about that stuff actually. I talk about dash plus melee, and then putting right clicks into your canceling right clicks into your deflects and dashes and stuff like that. But it seems like you already know that stuff, so that's good. Having someone higher better to pick up because they'll find my mistakes holding you back. Yeah, that's always good. You know, positioning is important. I saw a quote from Surefour where he said that you can get GM by mastering one of three things. I'm not gonna write it out. Mechanics, positioning, and game sense. He's like, as long as you master one of those things, you can get to GM. Voice is getting a little hoarse from talking so much. I don't know how Emong does this for like 10 hours or like XCC does it for like positioning and game. Yeah. And he said you can get like tier 2 Overwatch or like tier 3 or tier 2 just by mastering two of those things, and in order to become an Overwatch League Pro, you have to master all three. That's a Surefour's view of it. Not necessarily my view, but I thought it was interesting. He is a pro player and is much better than I am. Understands the game probably to a higher extent than I do. But anyway, let's get into Hanzo. You should be Sonic arrowing the door every time just to help your team. Any amount of information you gain for your team is better. Should be intent behind every Sonic arrow you use. There's times when you throw it out there for no reason because you're just bored and hit shift and fire, and then someone comes into your line of sight and you just fire that instead. Keep in mind the storm arrow usage I talked about before, although your storm arrow usage seemed pretty fine to me, but just keep that in mind. Work on the rhythm of your jiggle peak. So like I said, you're gonna want to combine the Sonic arrow and then peek only a little bit, shoot the line up the crosshair first, then peek, shoot the arrow the moment that you see that crack, and then go back, and you just want to limit the amount of exposure you have to the enemy. Stop trying to close distance to make your shots easier. This is a general tip too, but this is also something that was really prevalent on Hanzo. You know, you have infinite range as Hanzo. You don't have damage fall off, so you just fight from afar. You're throwing away your biggest advantage. You're just throwing it in the trash and closing the distance on a Roadhog or a Reaper or something like that, and it's just not gonna make the fight any easier. If anything, you're just gonna give the Reaper the advantage because now he's fighting at close range. Well, he didn't specifically fight a Reaper in his VOD, but making just a be a little bit more conservative with your leap cooldown when there's enemies alive. If there's no one alive and you're just using it to get to position faster, that's fine. But yeah, and then yeah, just use your try to use your dragon to isolate enemies, but it seems like you already kind of know to do anyway. So yeah, that's gonna be it for this VOD. But yeah, I hope you guys learned something from this. It was a 2-hour and 10-minute VOD review, so there's that. Probably the longest VOD review in history. I don't know.